I just want to do a quick overview just in case there's somebody connected that doesn't know all the fun words we're saying when we say InterVarsity or IFES or SESE. I did this last month as well, so it'll just be kind of a quick introduction. But InterVarsity is probably the name that you're most familiar with, InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. It's the US organization that I work for, so if you're a donor, if you get my newsletter updates, anything like that, you will have heard of InterVarsity, because that's the main organization that I formally work for. InterVarsity is the movement in the US, but we actually have movements throughout the world. They are not called InterVarsity, and InterVarsity is just one of the movements. It's not the main movement. It's not the planting movement. And yeah, worldwide, it's known as the IFES, the International Fellowship of Evangelical Students. And so that's the global organization that we're all a part of. InterVarsity is just the US branch. And then another name that you'll hear is SESE. If you followed me for any amount of time with ministry, I'm sure you've heard of SESE, because that's kind of my day-to-day. It's the IFES ministry in Ecuador. So every IFES ministry can have a different name depending on its context and where in the world it's at. Because since we are the Christian students of the community of Christian students in Ecuador, that name doesn't work very well for any other country. So the names differ a little bit. Those are three different names you might hear throughout the night. So I just want to always start and give a brief introduction of what those are. But I want to start tonight with a game. If you want to join at any point, you still can. So how do you say national camp in Spanish? There's 4 options. So if it's so red, blue, yellow, or green, so it can be any one of these answers. I'm not going to attempt to say any of them so that I don't want to have that accent. I don't know that I'd be able to pronounce some of them. But yep, Campamento Nacional. There we go. Cool. We've got a few people, so let's see how we're doing. We've got Colin in the lead, it looks like. There we go. Okay. Up next, question 2 of 10. How often is the national camp held per year? How often per year? How many times per year? That's better English. 1, 2, 3, or 4 times per year? 1 time per year. It's a lot of work. I don't know that we would be able to do it more than once. A lot of our sanity goes with it. Scott's jumped up into the lead. There we go. Question 3 of 10. What region of Ecuador was this year's national camp held? So we've got the coast, the Sierra, the rainforest, or Galapagos. Those are the 4 different regions of Ecuador that we saw at last month's meeting. So what region was this year's national camp held? If you saw the picture of the afiche, the design, you could have seen that we actually had the beach behind us. So it was on the coast. Tricked a few people on that one. There we go. Joyce is jumping up into the lead. She helped write the question, so she's cheating. This one's worth double points. So National Camp offers a weekend track for alumni or professionals. Is it true or false? True, everybody got that one. Yep, we do offer a space for some of our graduates or alumni to be able to participate and continue learning. This year we had a really cool track, and we actually had a lot on a specific workshop that was, I think, 6 hours long between the 2 days, or 4 or 6 hours between the 2 days, and it was on entrepreneurship. And we actually just gave that workshop this week as our online weekly workshops. We've got Colin jumping back up into first. True or false? National Camp usually takes place in the month of February. False. There we go. Yep, it's usually in the month of March. There we go. We've got Jules jumping back up into the lead. Let's see, question 6 of 10, 4 answers, double points. 2 scheduled favorite night events at National Camp are. So we have Culture Night and Talent Show Night. We have Bonfire Night and Serenades. We have Bonfire Night and Talent Show Night. Or we have Culture Night and SESE IFES Night. Which are the 2 scheduled favorite night events? Culture Night and SESE IFES Night. Talent Show we've only actually done once, and that was in lieu of the Culture Night. It was kind of or the SESE IFES Night, I think. It replaced one. Bonfire Night is one that we've had more recently. And then Serenades is something informal that's very much connected with Ecuadorian culture that I still do not understand. And they always tend to do them right outside my window at 3 in the morning. That's the other fun fact with those. How many participants did we have at this year's national camp? Got a picture for kind of an idea. We got between 50 and 75, 75 to 100, 100 to 125, or 125 to 150. To 125. Yep, it was actually set to be one of our bigger national camps, even given the extra travel to the beach. By the time that registrations had closed, we were over 140 or 150 formally registered. But the week before we were supposed to have national camp is when Ecuador got its first cases of COVID-19, and people quickly canceled registration. So we ended up having, it was between 115, 120 formally participate between staff, students, professionals, and volunteers as well. So a good number nonetheless. So, okay, we've got Joe still in first. Let's see. True or false? Ruth Hicks was named National Director at this year's national camp. False. Tricked you guys there. Last year at national camp, when we were studying Revelation, she was named, not official, or she was officially announced that she would be taking over. She actually just took over the role formally in January, so not quite at national camp. Okay, we got Yahida jumping on up. Cool. Let's see, question 9 of 10. Double points on this one. Which area do national camp workshops not focus on? So we have Bible, Christian character, apologetics, or ministerial abilities. I'm hoping some of these make sense in English. I don't ever have to say some of these words in English. So we have specific areas when we plan national camp for workshops that they have to fit in one of 3 categories. Okay. Apologetics is the area that we don't focus on. We do have apologetics workshops, but those fall under the category of Bible. And so, yep, we have Bible that would be like biblical panorama is one of the ones that we do. We do apologetics or focus on specific books sometimes. Christian characters, a lot of our relational aspects, limits, or like how to overcome brokenness, things like that. Christian character, a lot of discipleship in that area. And then ministerial abilities tends to be a lot more of our what is mission, what is evangelism, so like actually the ministry aspect on campus. So those are the 3 specific areas that we focus on, but apologetics we considered within part of the Bible category. Okay, we got Colin jumping back up. Last question, which was not a planning team for this year's national camp? So we had a transportation team, a logistics team, communications team, and content team. So the planning team before, during, and after, which was not an area that we intentionally planned for, or was not an official planning team. Transportation. Yep, everybody got this one. Yep, transportation falls within logistics, so I made that one a little easy. Okay, let's see how people did. We've got the podium. In 3rd place, Yahida. There we go. 2nd place, Colin. And 1st place is probably Joe's, but since she helped me write the questions, we're gonna get 1st place back to Colin. There we go, and then Scott coming up in 4th. There we go. Well, I hope that was fun for you guys. I hope you guys got to learn something new about national camp, maybe how we plan, or just the different ways that we get to interact with students. I kind of wanted to do that just as an introduction as well. A lot of times, national camp's such a big thing that sometimes it's really easy to get lost in what all we do. But yeah, we start planning national camp usually about at least 6 months ahead of time now, which is a lot for us. So, okay, so we're gonna go ahead and jump in. Let's see, I wanted to do a quick introduction and a little super brief COVID-19 update here. I don't wanna spend much time on that because that's not the focus of tonight. But for tonight, I do want you guys just to know, Ecuador is officially moving towards yellow status. So we talked last month that Ecuador's adopted a traffic light system, so red, yellow, green. So red being complete quarantine, stay in your house, nobody gets out, really strict curfew laws. We've officially, I think everywhere in the country has officially moved to yellow. And so not all together, they're kind of by different areas. But yep, we're moving to yellow here in Quito. We've moved to a modified yellow a few weeks ago, which made me laugh when they said it was a modified yellow, because I'm like, okay, so it's between yellow and red, so it's orange. We've got a really weird stoplight here. But yeah, we're able to go out now. I still haven't really been outside. I haven't seen anybody since March, but things are slowly opening here, which is nice to be able to see. Other than that, one of the other things that I wanted to do just in this introduction were 2 quick notes. We're gonna hear a lot of videos with students being able to share testimonies. Since it was in English, a lot of students didn't want to take the risk of doing it in person live in their second language, which I can understand. And so a lot of them recorded a video. So I'm gonna share a video with you guys. With that, there's some things that will be said that I just want you to have the context for. So if they ever say the word university group, just to put it in more of an InterVarsity context for you guys, or a US context in many ways, a university group would specifically be a small group Bible study. And so that's what we call them here. They're university groups. So small group Bible studies that we have on campus for that. And then the other one is just kind of a funny thing that came through my mind when I was listening to videos. In the quiz, we saw that this year's national camp took place on the beach. So when you hear the video, beach coming from a second English as a second language learner is a fun word to say. So it's beach, just in case there were any questions. So quick update on that. Everybody pronounced it pretty well. But again, rather than me talk all night, I wanted to invite others to be able to share. So I want to start with our national director. She sent a quick video just explaining what National Camp is and also what the purpose of National Camp is. Because it kind of comes from our national direction of where we're seeing different needs in the ministry. So I wanted her to be able to have a space to share with everybody tonight what exactly National Camp is. And then otherwise, I've got 4 other students, they're all students from Quito at this point, but different students that are going to share different aspects of National Camp and their stories with you. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my microphone on mute, and we'll go ahead and listen to Ruth as she shares what National Camp is.
Hi, my name is Ruth Hicks, and I have the privilege of serving as the CC National Director since January of this year. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the National Camp and the impact that it has on students' lives. The National Camp is the main space where students and graduates from around the country meet together each year for training. We have teaching from a book of the Bible. This year was Deuteronomy. We also have workshops and times like cultural night, IFEs, prayer night, all sorts of other activities in community together. There's 3 main things that I see as the impact in people's lives as a result of the camp. Firstly, they catch a vision for student mission. They hear stories from around the country, from around the world, and they really connect with what God is doing, and they're motivated to be involved in student mission. Secondly, the students have their abilities for mission strengthened. What do I mean by that? They learn much more biblical content. The workshops provide practical skills for leading groups, for doing Bible studies, for looking at issues like mental health. So they're learning new abilities that help them to strengthen student mission. And thirdly, it's really important for building a community in mission. The sense of friendship, the connection with people that gets built in these spaces is really, really important. Thanks for being in this time with Brett this evening. Thanks for supporting Brett. He's a very important part of our staff team and what he does in communication and also with the student groups in Quito. Thanks very much. Have a good evening.
So that was just kind of a quick introduction from Ruth in terms of what National Camp is and some of the purpose behind it. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of logistics, and a lot of money as well, a lot of resources in that sense, to put National Camp on. National Camp is usually 5 days. So it's 3 full days and then 2 half days, and then the rest is all for travel to get there. And so it's a big commitment that we ask from students and also staff. Usually in a National Camp week, with the way that we count hours, it ends up being about 100 hours that we can work in those 5 days and the couple days of prep and everything as well. So it's a big commitment, but we see so much growth in terms of students catching this vision for ministry and being able to relate with other students from throughout the country as well. And so it's a huge space for us. So I want to go ahead on the next slide. We're going to go ahead and see our first student testimony. And so this is Wendy. She's actually a student leader at the campus that I staff here in Quito with the Universidad San Francisco de Quito, so USFQ. And she's been involved for probably about 2 or 3 years now. She actually spent quite a decent time in, quite a good amount of time in the US. She participated in a few different events with university while she did a semester abroad. And then, which, I mean, you'll notice quite quickly with her level of English. But I'm really excited because Wendy's actually in the process of applying to become an intern with CESE, a staff intern. So really exciting to see how the ministry's been at work in her life. But the question that I kind of asked her was, what is National Camp to you, and why is National Camp important? So she shares a little bit with us.
Hi, my name is Wendy. I am from Quito, Ecuador, and I am a student at Universidad San Francisco de Quito. Well, National Camp for me is a space where students from all around the country can meet up, share their faith journeys, and be refreshed in the spirit. It's a space not only for students, but also for directors, staff, and other collaborators to meet the students they are serving to and have nice moments together. I think National Camp is an important event for students because we are able to explore faith, whether we have known about Jesus before or it's the first time. There are so many spaces where students can be connected to faith in different areas, such as art and business, social matters, and more. Students are able to explore different topics and at the same time be ministered as a whole body. For instance, in the big plenaries studying Deuteronomy, we were able to understand the whole perspective of God's heart when writing the law. We realized that it's not just a God saying do this or not, but that actually He's interested in giving and preserving our lives and that He wants the best for us. I feel like there were also times that we could share as a community, such as the cultural night, CESE night, and the bonfire, joining other students to seek God together and praising the God who is alive is a unique moment, and it's a nice memory that I keep. Personally, for me, National Camp this year was so special. Actually, it was my first national camp, and it was awesome to be able to participate with friends and learn a lot more of God. I was fed by the power of the scripture, and in the personal spaces I was able to process what God was saying to my heart and my personal situations. Before going, I felt burned after hard moments in my life, and at National Camp I was able to give that to Jesus and rest and enjoy His love and His presence. Also, I got the opportunity to meet with new people from other cities and regions of Ecuador. It was so inspiring to see God at work, reaching out college students from different parts of the country in a powerful and sustainable way. I also met people older than me who are an example in faith and love, and I knew I was able to learn from them a lot more, and I was able to start friendships that were going to bless me and guide me in my faith journey as well. And overall, it was so cool to be able to see people enjoying God's presence together and also God's creation, because we were at the beach and we got times to play and share together and sing and dance, and it was very beautiful. And it was a reminder that God is at work in our country and that He has a lot more for Sese yet. Thank you.
So that's a little bit of Wendy's testimony. She's been an absolute pleasure to work with. Like I said, her English is pretty much like completely fluent. So we actually do discipleship. And one of my first questions that I'll ask her is, do you want to do this week in English or Spanish? Because she likes to be able to practice conversational, but to get to that point where you can discuss faith topics and everything super deep in a second language is awesome to get there. So, and I think Wendy, another cool part of her testimony, specifically with this national camp that she didn't share, her campus, the San Francisco, operates on the US schedule, whereas Ecuador universities have very different schedules throughout the different regions. But because of that, national camp always falls when Wendy's campus is actually already meeting for classes. And so it can be pretty difficult for students from the San Francisco to participate. The last couple of years, we've had our national camp in Quito, which makes it a bit easier to where you can just come, and it's usually like maybe 2 or 3 hours just across the city. Whereas this year, Wendy, she got a group from her campus and they all traveled together. She was able to take one student that had never participated in a national space, and they traveled, was 8 hours by bus, 8 to 10 hours, depending on traffic and all that kind of stuff, plus the 2 to 3 hours to get to the terminal, just to be able to come to camp for a weekend. So they traveled all of Thursday night because they don't have classes on Fridays at this specific school, traveled all of Thursday night and were there bright and early, having not slept almost anything to participate in an 11-hour day. So a lot of commitment with Wendy, and just her desire to be even able to specifically work out plans to be able to help her friend be able to come. And currently that friend, we're seeing about potential leadership and different things like that in terms of the student group that Wendy's leaving behind, because she actually just graduated a few weeks ago. So really cool to see some of the commitment that different students have had. One of the parts of National Camp that we also do is worship, and I want you guys to be able to experience a little bit of what worship and song and music can look like for our movement here in Ecuador. Last month we got to hear the song that was written by Ecuadorian students called Christ in the University. This month I wanted to do a different song. It's one that Sese Quito actually just recorded, so it's two students and one staff that recorded it, and it's the song is called De Todas las Tribus, from every tribe. And so this is a song that we did a little bit last year, specifically with the study around Revelation and just that idea of what life can look like once everybody's comes together, every tribe and tongue, before the throne of God. And so this song kind of goes with that. I don't have anything in English with this one, so this one can be something, if you know Spanish, you can read. If not, you can just listen. But it's a song that I felt was pretty applicable, specifically with the situation that the world's been in, just to remind us, even if we don't know all the lyrics or anything like that, but just to remember that idea of Revelation, where full justice is restored, every tribe and tongue and nation is represented and fully whole and welcomed in. And so that's why I chose this song. It'll have a little bit of a pause as it gets started, but that's what this song is about. It actually was recorded specifically for the event that Sese Quito had today. They actually had their monthly meeting, so I've had my day bookended with different meetings. But Sese Quito, we focused as well on kind of the situation of the world, dividing students up into groups to explore 3 different areas of community care, and care for the vulnerable, and also the idea of racism and discrimination, specifically from biblical text and how we're called to respond as Christians. So we had chosen this song specifically for that, and I felt it fit well to include tonight. So here is De Todas las Tribus, performed by 3 people from Sese Quito.
De todas las tribus, pueblos y razas, muchos vendrán a alabar. De tantas culturas, lenguas y naciones, en tiempo y espacio vendrán a sea siempre el Cordero, Hijo de Dios, raíz de David. Bendito sea su santo nombre, Cristo Jesús, presente aquí. De enemigos comprados, grande multitud, muchos vendrán a alabar. Pueblo escogido, tu reino y nación, en tiempo y espacio vendrán a adorar. Bendito sea siempre el Cordero, Hijo de Dios, raíz de David. Bendito sea su santo nombre, Cristo Jesús, presente aquí. Bendito sea siempre el Cordero, Hijo de Dios, raíz de David. Bendito sea su santo nombre, Cristo Jesús, presente aquí. Presente aquí. Presente aquí.
So that's the song that we did earlier today. Hopefully it's one that you were able to enjoy. It's one of my favorites that we do here with the ministry. So we can go ahead and jump. I've got a couple other testimonies that I want you guys to hear. I've got a typo on this slide. I realized it after I'd gotten everything ready. But it's this question I asked Martin Utreras. He is a student that I've been working with for 2 years now. He's not a student at one of the campuses that I staff, but he's a part of the communications team. And so one of my roles with CESE is I run all of the communication at the national level for our organization. And Martin is one of the students that's volunteered a lot of his time, definitely not a little, and he helps in terms of a lot that we do with the area of video. And so he's been a huge help. I didn't give him much of a choice if he wanted to be on the team or not. I saw that he had a YouTube channel with, I think he's got like 60,000 subscribers or something now. So he nominated himself by that decision. So I just let him know he was now a part. And so with him, he got to participate in National Camp. He actually helped run quite a bit because he was on the communications team specifically for the camp roles as well. So he'll talk a little bit about his idea of service and like how much he enjoys doing that. And then the typo is that it's not Cese de Corazón that I have him talk about. It's an event that we did at camp called Como Está Tu Corazón. Cese de Corazón is a completely separate thing, but it's been so on my brain that it was a month campaign that we did. So Como Está Tu Corazón was the event at camp. But here is Martin's testimony.
I really love to serve others, and I'm happy that I can work with Cese in the communication team. I really enjoyed the workshop about Deuteronomy, which helped me to understand a lot of the context of this book. Como está tu corazón was an activity that you receive a piece of paper with different sentences like, have you ever cheated on an exam? Are you dealing with porn? Has Cese hurt you? And then you had to put a mark or a check in every sentence that you feel identified. And then they pick up all the papers, they list it up, and then they give you again another paper. And then someone read that paper out loud, and you stand up in behalf of the other person, representing that the community stands up with you. This moment was very useful to know that you're not alone in your struggles, and you have a really great community in Cese to support you. This moment was very useful to know that you're not alone in your struggles, and that you have a really great community in Cese to support you. I know that the staff workers had many deep conversations after camp about this. I saw many students committing their lives to God, and it was really encouraging to see them wanting to learn more about it. And for all of us, it was really important to learn how to choose well.
So that's Martin's testimony. In that reference that he's talking with, ¿Cómo está tu corazón? That's a super powerful space that we have at National Camp. We did it this year, and then we did it, I think it was 2 years ago. Yep, it was 2 years ago when we studied Genesis. And so it's not something that we do every year. We let there be a little bit of turnover in terms of students, so it's not something that we do all the time. But it's a specific thing where we give, like Martin was mentioning, we give a half sheet of paper with different statements and a little checkbox. And if you identify with the statement, you'll put a check. And it starts somewhat lighthearted of I've cheated on an exam or different things. And then we quickly get into questions about how you feel around aspects of your family, if you feel loved, if there's fear in your family, or your degree, if you're afraid of what you're studying, financial situations. We get into questions around sexuality, around hurt within the church, brokenness. And so it gets to be really deep really fast, because what we do is we have students answer this. It's completely anonymous, so it's a half sheet of paper that they can go and respond to, usually like 10 to 15 items that they can respond to, checking what they identify with. And then usually what happens is students assume that we're going to just collect them and tabulate, and then we've kind of got numbers later on. But what we actually do is we collect all of the papers, we stand in front of the room and we mix them up in front of them, and then we pass them all back out. And so in the end, every student ends up with somebody else's paper, but since it's anonymous, you don't know, there's no names, you don't know who it is. And what we do is we have somebody stand up at the front of the room and we go through and we read one by one each one of these statements, usually that can have a lot of shame attached to them. We ask about sexual abuse, suicide ideation, suicide attempt. So we ask about a lot of really deep topics. And then if the paper that you received has a check for that, you stand in representation of that person. And so it's something that it's super challenging for our community, because it's something that a lot of times we can just assume that there aren't issues in our community, but instead we choose to say, with that specific design of the heart that you're seeing on your screens, it's intentionally designed that way, where it's got nicks and bruises and certain parts turned to stone, because it's a heart that's lived a life, a result of its own choices. And so that's kind of what this event of ¿Cómo está tu corazón? Represents, because we get to see in real life, how is our community? As I stand in representation of somebody, it's specifically saying that we see you, we see your struggle. Nobody's laughing in the midst of it. Other people are standing as well, so you're not alone in that struggle. And so it tends to be a really powerful moment for students, and then we get to debrief it a little bit later on and help them respond and have conversations with staff as well. So that's one of the extra spaces. And another way that students get to respond is specifically through community. And that's what the next testimony is going to talk about how National Camp can facilitate friendship. And a lot of that's being able to walk together on campus, whether it be with somebody on your campus, like in your specific Bible study, or not. And so Paula shares a little bit of that with us.
One of the things that I really appreciated in the last National Camp was the importance to make community. Make community, including with people that don't live in the same city, but they shared with me the passion for the gospel and the passion to make missions in the university. Maybe the space where I share the most with people that don't belong to my university group or to CC Quito was in the free time that we had in the beach and the lunch time, because in this space you didn't be with the same people or in the same table, and that gave us the opportunity to talk about our families, our lives, our studies, and also we could share the problems that we have in our university. Part of building community is the help that I can give to another one and others can give it to me. I remember the first time that I went to a CC group, the guys made me feel so good. They motivated me to continue going to the thesis activities, including my university group. Now they are my friends, and I'm still learning about the experience that they have in the group. Most of my closest friends are not in my university, but they motivated me to improve myself every week and every study. When I feel tired, they remember me the real purpose. One of the things that CESE teach me in these years is the community. Because being a community is share moments, share laughs, share birthdays, and the support that I can give to other people in any circumstance. And that community, this community don't have a territorial limit.
So that's a little bit from Paula of specifically the idea around facilitating friendship. We create a lot of spaces for students to interact, but in the end, it's usually the spaces that we don't plan at all. So free time, lunches, things like that, where we encourage students to mix up and try to be intentional with sitting with people they don't know, and that really helps students to connect on different levels with different people. We intentionally do one lunch where we make them sit by whatever they're studying, because it's a way to get people to mix up and participate in that way. And so the relationships that are created at camp, I'm sure for anybody that shared that they had a camp story, there's probably at least one friendship that's still there as a good reminder of what God had done in and through you, right? And so that's a little bit from Paula on that. I wanted to show a quick video because with summaries, testimonies, we get an idea of what students lived. But we do have a summary video that we made that kind of shows some of the pictures and videos that this is actually a video that Martin edited. So you can see some of the work that he does. And so he's very good at what he does. But here's the National Camp summary video.
Nos ha tocado vivir, el mundo avanza y no para de cambiar, y el vacío no deja de existir, y me pregunto qué podemos hoy hacer. Debemos decir y hacer la verdad, debemos orar y nunca parar, debemos amar sin condición, debemos ganar a la universidad. También tu escuela necesita del Señor, de tu constancia y de tu consagración. La oportunidad la tienes, no la dejes ir. Dile al Señor conmigo en cuentas de corazón. Debemos decir y hacer la verdad, debemos orar y nunca parar, debemos amar sin condición, debemos ganar a la universidad.
Listo, chicos, vamos un poquito a hablar.
Debemos decir y hacer la verdad, debemos orar y nunca parar, debemos amar sin condición, debemos ganar a la universidad, debemos ganar a la universidad, debemos ganar a la universidad.
No, ahí está fallando. Quiero un encebollado sin cebolla, con maíz total y con canguil.
¿Pero qué es que usted quiere que yo le dé de comer a usted?
Pero los de nuestra son mucho mejor.
¡Este es mi pedazo de
Sentir la necesidad mismo de pertenecer.
Podemos terminar con 16 chicos nuevos, entonces 8 nuevos. Tenemos aquí en el privado.
La palabra que quemó tu boca es la misma que el viento llevó, sin que puedas saber a quién les toca. Un gran fuego se encenderá.
So that was a quick video recap of this year's national camp. I forgot that every time Martin edits a video, he always hides a ridiculous video or photo of me, so hence the splits and crawling in the mud. Yes, so Colin's asking a question that the guy with the football soccer jersey isn't from Ecuador. Correct. That was Ben Carswell. He's the national director of the IFES movement from New Zealand. So New Zealand, Ruth being from there originally, she comes down and participates, or he came down to participate. He wanted to be at the first national camp where Ruth was in charge as a way of showing partnership. So he had come to Ecuador specifically to participate in that. And then we also invited him to give one of the expositions at night or during the days. And so, so yeah, that was the part where he received a jersey from from the Ecuador team, and then also the CSA hat. So students were very excited for that. But as you can see, there are a ton of things that happen at National Camp. It's so hard to try and summarize all of that, but the video does the best that we can. So if you have questions about the different things that you saw, we've got the space just after this that's going to be the after party. That's just kind of open. I'll turn it to where everybody can turn on their microphones and all that kind of stuff, and we just get to hang out and chat. And if you have questions, I'm more than happy to chat with anything that you guys have questions of. But I've got one more video testimony and then a couple quick slides. I'll probably go a few minutes longer than 9, so if you have to disconnect, that's completely fine. I am recording and I will post it in the group later. But I wanted to end with this specific video from Tommy because he actually decided to spend a lot of time of talking about why staff workers are important at National Camp and some of his experiences talking with Ben. So you'll hear Ben's name mentioned. And yeah, it's his take on why staff are also so important in a space like National Camp.
A significant moment for me at National Camp this year was after a full day activity. I met Ben Carswell, who was the main preacher this camp, invited from all the way down from New Zealand. And we shared a really personal moment talking about something I was going through, and he helped me a lot with his advice, with what God has to say through him to me. Also, I I had a talk with a staff worker who challenged and encouraged me to make a decision about my life, about something that was going on. From one exposition, I remember they were talking about how the king from that time in Deuteronomy, how he read the Bible every day, and he memorizes it and write it down, and how that was a requirement, something that the king had to do to be a king. And I'm thinking, how can I do that every day with my life? Sometimes I cannot even remember what my class was about. I cannot imagine memorizing all the Bible, but instead of that, I took the decision to look, search for different resources so I can listen to the Bible every day and study it and let the Holy Spirit work in my life and save it in my heart. I would like to say that having staff workers at camp, the number of staff workers that we have right now, in comparing the number we had a couple of years ago, it's a blessing. It's such a blessing from God, because through that we can learn, we can share, and we can rely in brothers and sisters that serve God, serve the kingdom. We know some difficulties and some challenges they have, mainly in supporting their ministry, but I like to say that God is faithful, and He has show us that.
So that was Tommy's quick testimony. With that, just to respect time, I'm going to try and jump pretty fast through the next different things. So I got this slide that's looking towards the future, and a lot of what we've been reading in Deuteronomy this year, Deuteronomy is a lot of a book of transition as well, and that's kind of where I'm at with my staff life as well. So if you aren't aware, if you haven't heard, my contract will be ending with InterVarsity in August of next year. So I actually have an end date. I've been working with InterVarsity and CSA for the past, when I finish the contract, it's going to be 6 years total. It was originally a contract for 2, and I've just been feeling God's leading towards something new. I don't quite know what that new thing is yet, but working towards it. And so a lot of my role for the next 19 months, as we get closer to that date, is prepping leaders and prepping other staff, communications team transfer, and all of that as well. And so a lot of new things are coming up in terms of the future and what that looks like, but I just like to keep everybody informed. It's something that it's nothing secretive. It's been something that we've been had in mind since about July of last year. And so we've been slowly working towards getting everything set up and trying to make it as good of a transition as it can be. I'm currently still the only full-time staff other than our national director. I don't think she's supposed to work full-time, but that's what the job requires sometimes. And so we're looking towards raising up other staff and at least figuring out how to make this transition sustainable and as well in many different ways. With that, I do want to share a little bit of some of the stuff. You might have seen some of these images on social networks. I've been sharing them on Facebook, in my Facebook group, on my Facebook page, and also on my Instagram page for ministry stuff. I've been doing a lot of a what CSA means to me, and that's kind of my fiscal year-end funding campaign. And so I decided to ask a few different questions to a bunch of different students from a bunch of different cities, and these are some of the responses that I've gotten. I'm going to be sharing even more in the coming days, because at the end of this month, it's InterVarsity's fiscal year-end, and I want, as I'm working towards raising the deficit that I have, I don't want money to be the main thing that we're looking at. And that's part of the reason that I decided to ask questions of students this way and start to share, because for me, it's so important to remember the why behind. And yeah, asking what CSA means to me, or what their experiences have been, impactful moments in their life in ministry. That's been something that I found super helpful in terms of keeping me motivated and also on the right track of where my heart's at as I serve students. And I think it's really important as well for ministry partners, be it people that just want to pray or give financially. It's a way to even know specifically what you can be praying for and celebrating. And so I've got this campaign that I'll have for the rest of the month. I'm sure you'll see a bit more. I've got a few, I think we've got like 18 or 19 responses, and there are 5 or 6 questions each. So students have done a very good job of giving me lots of information to be able to share. And it's super exciting to be able to share stories because, like I said, I can talk about it, but when it comes from the students, it's just so much more powerful, right? And so with that, I currently have a deficit that I'm trying to fundraise. This is my very specific goal, to raise this deficit by the end of the month before we hit fiscal year end with InterVarsity. So fiscal year end is Monday, June 30th. So in a week and 3 days. So this is something that I'm very specifically praying for. If you feel led to give, I've got information on how you can do that. Specifically, I'm going to put in the chat a link where if you have interest in giving or connecting more with the ministry in any way, shape, or form, doesn't have to be giving a financial gift. This can be just, I have questions, anything like that. Go ahead and just fill out that form. It's a way for me to just know where to look and not lose information. And so if you want, just go ahead and click on that link, and then you can fill it out. There's only like 4 or 5 questions, fairly simple. But so everything's transparent, just so everybody knows. I've currently got a deficit. When I started this month, it was $4,400. So we've gotten a bit closer, which is nice. So I've currently raised 24% of it. I have a remaining $3,440 to cover the deficit for this year. And then as of next month, if anything in the deficit wasn't raised, that's going to be the main focus. And then also working to get to 100% again in terms of monthly funding would be a goal. So things, if you feel led to give, that's great. If you feel led to pray, that's also great. One specific way that I want to try and encourage is maybe your churches would be willing to do a specific offering in this month or something like that. It doesn't have to be just you. Advocacy is a huge way, and that's what this next one's about. That partnership looks a lot of different ways. It's not just sending a check. Prayer is super important, as I'm sure all of you know. That's why I want to do these spaces regularly, that I get to attempt to see your faces a little bit when cameras are on, especially now that with travel restrictions. I was supposed to be leaving for Mexico on Monday to do or Monday or Tuesday, to do a salsa championship that we were invited to, but that was completely canceled. And then from Mexico, I was going to go to the US for a ministry visit. And so that's completely canceled at this point. I'm not going to be able to go to the US to do my normal church visits because churches are also not meeting yet. And so I don't want to have that huge expense for flights and everything. So we're trying to adapt and do things virtually, but prayer is super important. Donation is another way. Like I said, it's partnership. I don't look for just a check. I want these spaces where you get to hear the stories as well, because you're a part of it. It's not just me in the field and you sending a check. It's all of us celebrating the work that God's doing, and all of us have an equal role in that. And then the last one is advocacy, kind of a little bit of what I was sharing. If there's a space in your church, or if you have friends, or if you'd be willing to post specifically something on your own pages about the ministry, advocacy is huge as well. So different ways to partner with whatever you feel comfortable with. And then prayer requests, I think this is my last slide, is to remember if you can be praying specifically for the remainder of the original $4,500 that needed to end the fiscal year in the black. If you can be praying for students to continue engaging with Deuteronomy and the applications that they received at National Camp. If you can pray also for preparation for FA, which is our student leader event that's going to be happening in August or September. It's not a national camp. It's only usually 3 days, but it's still going to be virtual. We've decided that already, but it's still going to be a lot of work to get everything ready. So, and then also continued prayers for adjustment to yellow designation here in Quito and Ecuador in general. And also if you can be praying for funding to reach 100% for the next 19 months as I finish my commitment with ministry. And so those are a few different prayer requests to leave you with. I want to thank you guys for participating, for connecting. I really enjoy these spaces. I like it when it gets to be a little bit more interactive, or like this, where we get to hear from students more than me. But I've decided that I'm going to try and do this for the next few months. So just once a month, kind of do a random event. It's going to be a different theme every single month. And I've got an announcement. I already decided what next month is. And next month, I'm going to do something completely different. And so if you want to take part, you are more than welcome to. But next month, I'm going to do something a bit more on culture. And so next month, for the 1 hour meeting, we'll jump on and I'll have everybody turn their cameras on. And the idea is that I'm going to teach some salsa footwork. And so salsa is something that I've done since I came to Ecuador. It's ironically something that I teach to everybody at national camps. So the random white guy is teaching the Ecuadorian salsa, which I always think is kind of hilarious. But just something completely new, completely different. I'm going to feel super uncomfortable attempting to teach. I also haven't taken a class in English in probably 2 years. So we're going to see how the language barrier goes the other way around. But yeah, everybody's welcome. I wanted to do something a bit different. These meetings like we did today take a bit of planning. The salsa footwork is something that we just kind of get to enjoy. And it's something that I want to, like I said, have it go both ways. So potentially teach you guys something that you don't know, get you guys out of your comfort zones as well. And so you don't need a partner. I'm just going to be teaching footwork and we're going to start literally from zero. So if you don't know anything, you are completely qualified because that's what this is for. So it'll be most likely on it'll for sure be on July 18th. That's for sure. The only thing I'm not 100% sure of is the time. Trying to work so many different time zones is always a bit of a struggle, but probably the same time. That seems to work well for a majority of people. But that's specifically what's going on next month. So if you kind of want to set that aside in your calendar, or at least be watching for information coming from that. Otherwise, thanks again.